Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in and checking out my latest video. And in this week's video, I'm going to get into some matchups that I'm looking forward to in the month of April in the sport of boxing. But let me first get a bit of a rant off my chest about Adonis Stevenson. So basically, you have Sergey Kovalev. He wins this fight on Saturday night against Cedric Agnew. He ends up stopping Cedric Agnew in 7 rounds. Max Kellerman interviews him and asks him his opinion on Adonis Stevenson fight. Sergey Kovalev basically proceeds to call Adonis Stevenson a piece of shit. And some people are probably wondering why that happened. Well, actually, Adonis Stevenson was making comments on Facebook about John David Jackson, Sergey Kovalev's trainer. He also said Sergey Kovalev has no chin and he fights for thousands, and Adonis Stevenson fight for millions, and this and that. He was going on with some bullshit, to be honest, on his Facebook account. And basically, I understand Adonis Stevenson responding last night after Sergey Kovalev called him on national television, and he basically said that he said Sergey Kovalev is slow, he has no defense. Different comments about Sergey Kovalev, but my issue is Sergey Kovalev came into your own backyard, called you out, and you ducked him in front of your hometown, your adopted hometown in Quebec City. He called you out, and an hour later, you're fighting in the same card. And Max Kellerman asks you, well, Sergey Kovalev called you out. What do you have to say about it? And he goes, I'd like to fight Carl Froch and Bernard Hopkins for Quebec and Canada. Listen, nobody has ever wanted to see Carl Froch and Adonis Stevenson than I know in Canada, in my opinion, from people I know that like the sport of boxing. So I thought that was a complete outrageous statement. And in my opinion, he just doesn't. He wanted the easier fight, so he goes to Showtime. Which, in fairness to him, though, I will say this: apparently, Showtime has given him a much better deal. He signs with Al Heyman as well, but he straight up ducked Sergey Kovalev. For him to talk smack about Sergey Kovalev now is stupid to me. You ducked this guy in your own hometown. This is a fight that everybody wanted to see, and you're going to try to say we want to see Bernard Hopkins and Carl Froch more? That's just foolish to me, and that's the problem with the sport. There's so much politics going on, and all these guys have different excuses. One that Adonis Stevenson used before against Kovalev was, who has he fought? Well, what makes Adonis Stevenson some guy that dictates what goes on in matchmaking? His biggest win was against Chad Dawson, who came off a loss to Andre Ward and was knocked out by Andre Ward. You know what I mean? So, like, what gives him the right to be this big shot saying when him and Kovalev get the fight? I mean, it's just foolishness to me. Like, that's what's wrong with the sport of boxing, man. You got these guys, they're all about the money, which I have no problem. You know, you need money to support your family, make money in the sport. It's a dangerous sport, but this is boxing. You got to fight the best to have a legacy in the sport. And the fans pay to see these big matchups. Like, that's why you have these guys who are legends still in the sport. Muhammad Ali, you have Hagler, different guys like that. That's the problem with these fighters today. You have a few guys that still want to fight the best. You have guys like Sergey Kovalev, Darnell Boone, Keith Thurman, to name a few, that want to be in there with the best guys in the world, and that's what the sport of boxing needs. So Adonis Stevenson lost me as a fan, personally. I'm not down with guys ducking fights. He took the easier way out. He wanted Hopkins because the easier matchup, plain and simple. And Kovalev would draw a lot of money, and he can't tell me in Montreal that wouldn't sell out. Everybody knows that would sell out in Montreal. Sell out multiple arenas. Like, get out of here with that. That's foolishness. Anyway, sorry for getting into that rant, guys. I had to get that off my chest. And now we're going to get into some matchups I like to see in the sport of boxing. So the first matchup I'm going to talk about is April 12th, the rematch between Manny Pacquiao and Timothy Bradley. The way I see this fight going down, both these fighters possess some interesting skill sets. You got Manny Pacquiao with speed, power, footwork, movement, and angles. And you got Timothy Bradley, a guy very determined. He was hurt in their first fight. He hurt his ankles. And he continued fighting on and got a bogus decision. And he's also a guy with good boxing ability. He can take a punch. You've seen that in the Ruslan fight. He gets hit, he'll go down and come back at you. And he can move around a lot. We saw that in the Marquez fight. I personally, my prediction for this fight is, I think Manny Pacquiao wins a close fight, 7 rounds to 5 kind of thing. Very close fight, because Timothy Bradley, I think, is a hell of a boxer, in my opinion. And I think the key for Manny Pacquiao in this fight is he needs to throw a lot of punches, and he needs to fight Not just like 1 minute like he was doing the last fight. He'd fight like in a minute spurt in some of the rounds. I think he needs to control and dominate the rounds and have a lot of activity to sway the judges in his favor. So I'm going to pick Manny Pacquiao in a close decision. On that undercard, there's a fight that I think is severely undervalued. Against Ray Beltran and Roman Martinez. Ray Beltran is a guy, a longtime sparring partner of Manny Pacquiao. He helped in the Marquez camp, counterpunching, etc. This is a guy who just got robbed his last fight against Ricky Burns. Ray Beltran, I really liked his body work in that fight. He would back up Burns and hit him with some body shots on the ropes. And overall, I think these two guys match up really good, and I think this could be an excellent fight to watch. Martinez's last fight was against Mikey Garcia. He got dominated in the fight, but did actually drop Mikey Garcia, which is saying something because Mikey Garcia is a very good technical fighter. I personally think Ray Beltran wins a decision in this fight, and an excellent fight. Ray Beltran, in my opinion, just has more skills out of the Martinez in him. So I'm definitely going with Ray Beltran by decision on that fight. The next card I'm going to talk to you about is an excellent card. I believe it's in DC, if I'm correct. It's Bernard Hopkins and Beibut Shimanev. Beibut Shimanev, if you're not familiar with him, this is a guy from Kazakhstan, extensive amateur background. He's got a good work rate. He's got an excellent right hand, very good power. And if Bernard Hopkins uses the same strategy he used against Karl Murat, he's going to be in some trouble because he could definitely drop Hopkins if Hopkins exchanges with him. Bernard Hopkins, we get a classic legend of the sport, ring IQ, excellent defense, a mastermind in the ring, and a guy who, just an outstanding fighter. He gets guys to fight at his pace and really dictates the fight. And that's what Shimanev has to stay away from if he wants to win this fight. And a fight like this, it's very important that you have an excellent referee in there because Bernard Hopkins is very clever and he gets away with a lot of illegal maneuvers when you watch him fight. So that's an X factor in this fight, in my opinion. You need an excellent referee in there. It can make a world of a difference. But don't sleep on Beibut Shimanev. A lot of people don't know him, but he could cause some problems for Bernard Hopkins. And I think this will be a really good fight, in my opinion. The next fight I'm going to talk to you guys about is Shawn Porter and Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi, excellent broadcaster on Showtime. A guy who's very technical, can move around. And he's a very tough guy as well. I saw some people saying Shawn Porter is going to stop him easily. And I don't think so. I actually think Shawn Porter will end up winning this fight just because I think Shawn Porter is the stronger of the two fighters. And he's younger. And I think that he can keep up the pace maybe a little longer towards the end of the fight. And I think that Paulie won't be able to keep Shawn Porter off him, especially in the later rounds. And I think that Shawn Porter wins a close decision against Paulie Malignaggi, maybe wins from 9 up those rounds, the late rounds of the fight. I think Paulie wins the early rounds, and I think Shawn Porter comes on late and wins a close decision against Paulie Malignaggi. I have a lot of respect for both of those guys myself. The next fight also I want to speak to you guys about is the April 26th card, which has John Molina Jr. going against Lucas Matisse. So John Molina Jr., if you're not familiar with him, this guy has good power. He has been stopped, though, before in the past by DeMarco early on in that fight. And he basically got a very nice cover-behind victory recently against Mickey Bay, who is a Team Money Team fighter. Mickey Bay up several rounds in the fight, and John Molina stops him and gets him out of there. So he possesses some good power. Lucas Matisse, coming off a loss to Danny Garcia, who I thought had an excellent fight up until his eye closed. And Matisse is a guy who can take a punch. Excellent puncher himself. And I personally see Lucas Matisse taking John Molina out in about the 5th round, in my opinion. I just don't think John Molina can withstand the power of Matisse. And Matisse is coming back trying to make a statement because people are saying he's overrated and he's not that good of a fighter anymore. So I think we're going to see a motivated Lucas Matisse. And he stops John Molina in the 4th round, I'm going to say. The next fight I want to talk to you guys about is on the same card as well. Is going to be between Keith Thurman and Julio Diaz. So let me first start with Julio Diaz. We got to give him respect for taking this fight because nobody wanted to fight Keith Thurman because he's such a dangerous fighter. The problem is with Julio Diaz is he's facing a guy in Keith Thurman who's a very big 147-pounder. And Julio Diaz has multiple champion, but that was in the 135-pound weight class in lightweight. So there's going to be a big size disadvantage for him. He's a tough guy, though. He gave Americana excellent fights. Same with he gave Sean Porter some problems as well. Julio Diaz actually dropped Americana in their fight, so he's a tough guy. But I see Keith Thurman knocking him out by the 6th round. Keith Thurman is just, in my opinion, an excellent fighter. And a guy who can carry power into late rounds, can also box with you as well. And I don't think Julio Diaz is going to be able to take his power. I got Keith Thurman by a 6th round stoppage. Let me know what you guys think, though, about some of these fights. It's actually a very good month for the sport of boxing in April. And I want to hear some opinions on the Sergey Kovalev and Adonis Stevenson beef. I want to hear what you guys think about it. Give me your thoughts on it, guys. And thank you once again for tuning into this video and checking it out. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, guys.